Hi, everyone. I wanted to welcome you to the 13th, it's lucky number 13, Local Gov Stories podcast. I'm here with the amazing Jim Moran. Hello, Jim.
Melanie, it is great to see you, and I hope your back is okay because Melanie did all the heavy lifting for this podcast.
Well, Jim's got a lot going on in Antioch right now. He's second in charge and there's busy summer. You guys have a lot going on, actually.
Marshall Tucker Band coming to the Village of Antioch. There's a good plug for that. Come on up next month in June, June 12th.
That's
But
June 12th.
yeah, but
Mark the
yeah,
date.
we have a busy summer, and but it all kicks off with the summer conference, which we'll talk about a little bit later on this
Mhm.
podcast. That's a fun way to begin June. But yeah, it's been a busy summer in Antioch. So Melanie did both interviews for this podcast, so I'm very grateful, and they're both excellent interviews. I had a chance to preview them. Melanie, as always, you do a great job, and we're looking ahead to the ILCMA summer conference coming up in just weeks, days,
Oh my
days away.
goodness. I can't believe the beginning of June is almost here. It's absolutely crazy. But before we talk about that, you did something very exciting earlier this month that I would love for you to share with everybody. Take it away,
Well,
Jim.
thank you, Melanie. I'm excited to say I am now part of the alumni of Northern Illinois University's MPA program. There's a lot of us across the state of Illinois. The MPA program, if you're not familiar, at NIU is ranked fourth nationally, and there's a statistic, and it's something like 80% of managers across the state of Illinois and local government have their MPA from NIU. And there's a reason why. It's a great program run by great people. Dr. Robinson's our department chair. The professors and instructors at the program, the support staff are wonderful people that know a lot about local government. And the most important thing is the staff and also the students, the cohorts in your program are very much excited to be a part of local government. So that's kind of contagious. So it was great. And what's cool, Melanie, it was a mixture of mid-career people like me. I was actually one of the older people, which at
All right.
graduation, I looked around. I'm like, oh goodness. But it's mid-career people that have a whole career under their belt and are polishing off their career with an MPA. Then there's a lot of people that go right from undergrad to the MPA program also. So it was cool to have that mix and get to know a lot of people in the program. We had a great group of graduates, and I'm couldn't be more honored to be a part of the alumni of NIU right now. So we had our graduation on May 9th. So congratulations to everybody that graduated, and to the folks in the program right now. Graduation will be here before you know it.
Yeah, congratulations, Jim, to you.
Thank
I
you.
know that that was a lot of balancing. You obviously got your promotion to assistant manager. You're in the middle of finishing your MPA and all of that. Plus, you're doing the Local Gov Stories podcast. You got a couple of kids at home. Busy. So you did it all, and now you've at least got that one off your plate.
I have my weekends back, kind of.
Good for you. Good for you. Um, yeah, so that's amazing. Again, I had the chance to attend on Friday the Legacy Conference at NIU Naperville, and I want to say it was amazing. This organization is wonderful. I want to share a little bit about it with everyone. For those of you that don't know, it was founded in 2011, and it is all about supporting and empowering women to move into leadership skills in local government, or leadership roles rather, in local government. And it was founded in 2011, so that's roughly 14 years ago. And at that time, only 11% of top professional positions, meaning city and county managers or administrators in local government, were women, only 11%. Fast forward to today, it is now more than doubled to 29%. So that's a huge accomplishment. And for those of you watching who aren't involved with Legacy Project, or even those who aren't in local government but might consider joining the profession, this is a place where women are truly supported. I will say I attended a couple of the sessions, and I attended one where there was three female managers who really laid it out saying, you know what, like, you don't have to know everything. Sometimes there's challenges that you haven't faced yet. And it was really an empowering message. I know because I was sitting next to a young woman who wants to be a manager, and she looked over to me and she said, you know what, that just settled my mind. Like, I've kind of been fearful of thinking about moving into leadership someday. And she's like, I'm not scared anymore after hearing from these amazing women. So it was wonderful to see. It was a very electric conference. It was their 14th annual. Hats off to Legacy Conference. I already talked with their president to see if she'll join us on the podcast, and she's interested. So we'll circle back on that. But it was amazing.
What what a great group and an impactful group. And the statistic you mentioned is really, go from 1 out of 10 basically to almost a third of managers are now women, and a big part of that is support from the Legacy Project. And it's great
Yes.
every time there's, this was the annual conference, or every time there's a workshop or an event. I love seeing the social media presence either on LinkedIn or Facebook of all the attendees, and it's a really great cross section of all sorts of women in local government across the state of Illinois and across the Chicagoland area here. It's fun to see that and the support they give each other.
Absolutely. It was wonderful. So anyone who'd like to learn more, visit legacyprojectnow.org. So why don't we scoot along? I know there's not many upcoming events in the very near future, right? We've got just a couple. One
That's
thing.
right. Obviously, there's the summer conference, which we've been talking a lot about. That's coming up next month. But coming up, I think starting tomorrow, or it is tomorrow, there might still be a couple slots left for the Metro Manager golf outing. It's at Village Links of Glen Ellen. And it's tomorrow beginning at 7 a.m. That's May 21st at 7 a.m. So check out the ILCMA.org website if you want a last minute registration. The registration link and all the information is on the website. And again, summer conference coming up the beginning of June.
Yes, absolutely. And just on a side note, I will be at Metro Managers. So anybody who needs to call, email, find the website, get on register, join us. It should be hopefully a really great day. And then conference, June 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Wow, we're just, what are we? Just about 2.5 weeks away. It's
I
crazy.
I feel we were just at the winter conference doing our
I
podcast.
know.
I heard it,
I know.
which was great. And now summer conference is here, and the weather's better. Summer conference is always fun. And
Mhm.
again, if you've never been to a conference, we've got a couple great reasons today. Our guest that Melanie interviewed, the networking is phenomenal. Everything about it is great. So without further ado, Melanie, why don't we get into our
Yeah.
first conversation?
Yeah, so I had the chance to interview our opening keynote, Joy Baldridge, and I'm just going to let the interview speak for itself. So let's go to that. Hello, everyone. Today I have the honor to be meeting with Joy Baldridge of Baldridge Seminars International. She is our opening keynote, our kickoff keynote at the upcoming conference in June, June 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Joy, thank you for joining us to tell us about your keynote today.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
Well, I want to dig right in. I have done my research, been all over your website. We had a little pre-chat to learn more about you, and I know this is going to be a not to miss keynote. It's going to be wonderful. So why don't you go ahead and tell us more about your background first, and then we'll get into the keynote presentation you're going to make
Oh,
today.
sure. Well, I've been in the speaking business since birth because my family founded an organization, the Baldridge Learning Center. And I've learned lots of useful ideas based on the studies that we've done in the Baldridge Center, the Baldridge Labs, on how to make the best even better. So it's
Mhm.
real golden nuggets, useful, immediately applicable techniques and strategies to up your game. And they're unique and innovative because they're concepts that we've developed over time through our studies and our case studies and our practicals that we do.
So I know that one of the themes that you and I discussed is resilience and leadership, which to me are very hand in hand topics, right? Like skill sets that you can have. Being a stronger leader, you must be resilient, right? We want to talk more about that.
Oh, yes. And leadership is so crucial in local government because what I love about speaking at local government, which I do quite often, many municipalities and counties and cities and towns, is that the impact is so much more direct and the
Mhm.
passion and the caring for the communities is as well. And there's definitely going to be uncertainty, and that's what my talk is about. But I always like to say that when nothing is certain, anything is possible. And
I
so
love that.
thank you. So when we find ourselves in these uncertain moments and we're like, because it happens definitely on the local level, just as it does everywhere, it's
Yeah.
very important to remember that there are always opportunities and directions to go. So I'll be sharing golden nuggets, these useful ideas. I'm big on how-to information that can be implemented right away.
I love that.
And as opposed to a lot of theory, because theory is interesting, but I think most people know the theory. It's more about how do I act and what can I do
Yeah.
differently to innovate.
Yes. How do I change things that I know in my heart I could be better at doing potentially? You know, what you talked about is a lot to do with perception, like how you see situations, right? You talk a little bit more about that, right?
That's exactly right. There is a professor at Harvard University named Jerome Bruner, and in his studies, what he determined is a concept called persistence of perception. And what that means is the way we see the world persists, it continues to be seen that same way unless something interrupts it and takes it to a new level or a new thought process. And so when I speak, and especially when I kick off an event, I apply some new ideas so that you can see the way you run your municipality or your department with new eyes, and you can make positive change. I like to talk about the minor change that gets the major impact.
Yeah. Yeah. I see that in my work where I can come into an organization and I bring a different whole like thought pattern, right? Than people who are, potentially right in the middle of it. And
Yeah.
it's sometimes hard to see outside of what everyone around you is saying. So it's really interesting to, encourage people to go, okay, maybe I have to look at everything that I'm doing in a whole different way to
Yeah.
potentially produce a better result. Because really it seems to me in our conversations that one of your goals is making sure that people can be better than they are right now, finding ways to improve,
Yes.
strengthen their leadership, which in ILCMA is actually a really consistent topic. All the managers that I've gotten to know are very, very interested in being the strongest leaders possible. So I know people will respond to this. Let's talk a little bit more about leadership. What is
Oh,
leadership? How does that factor into your presentation?
well, the way it factors in is I'm going to go over a change chart because nothing changes if nothing changes. And the key is to change before you have to. So I know in local government, there are a lot of mandated changes. I mean, elections can be that, and boards and people who are leading boards. That's all mandatory types of changes. And we are subject to those changes. But there are changes that we can actually innovate and initiate. And those are changes that have to do with things that can make a big difference. For instance, your skills. How can you take the time as a leader to actually do some training with the people that you work with? Sometimes we get too busy for that. Or how can we delegate to build trust? Because according to Fortune magazine, delegation is synonymous with trust. And yet sometimes we just get too busy to delegate, or we don't know who we can delegate to, or we're just too concerned about the outcome not being the way we would
Yeah.
have done it. But there are some tools to be more proactive in delegation. And I always call it delegate and celebrate because it gets people to feel like you trust them and that you
Yeah.
can help them to take things off your plate so that you can grow and build successors as well.
Sure, sure. Oh, yeah, and that's so important. And in conjunction with that is empowerment. You're empowering your team to take lead on things, and I know, I run my own businesses and sometimes I feel like, oh, I'll just take care of it, like, oh, it's all in my head. But as you pointed out, there is, in addition to getting the job done on a daily basis, working towards succession planning to help people develop the skills to lead someday, which is very important. In local government, especially, you probably know this with all of your work with local government, but there is a talent shortage of people coming into this profession. So making sure that the people are there are being trained to become leaders, in addition to obviously ensuring that the local government profession is enticing and attractive to people and get more people involved in it.
Absolutely. And what I love about leadership is there are so many different ways that you can be a leader and so many ideas that you can implement as a leader that can create an environment where, first and foremost, you want retention of those who
Yeah.
work with you. And then,
Yeah.
in addition to that, you want a buzz going. You want to spread the word that this is a place to work. This is a place where you can recommend people when the people that you manage and leave the day and they go home or they go out with friends and they talk about their job and what they're doing with excitement and
Mhm.
enthusiasm, because you've created a work environment that makes people feel valued, like they're making a difference. And in local government, you truly do make a difference in many ways.
Oh,
So
goodness.
I agree totally with what you're saying.
Yeah, it's I say, and many people do, like it's government closest to the people. Like the actions taken can impact people immediately and change lives for the good or bad, right? Better
Yes.
or worse, and just affect quality of life. It's a huge responsibility. So I feel like the tools that you're going to give to people will be really empowering. One other thing you talked about, which I am so interested to learn more, and I know you're not going to tell us about all of it, but taking breaks, like giving your mind that break that you need in order to be as strong as you can. So maybe just touch a little bit about that because I'm excited to see that in person.
Oh, definitely. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because
Yeah.
my family developed a concept called a purple break. And
Mm,
it's something that you'll only hear in this particular session because it's something that we created. And it has to do with taking the moment and rejuvenating the pigment in the eye in order to be more alert and more aware and less tired in the day. I find that we get exhausted throughout the day with
yeah.
pressures and all kinds of demands that are placed on us, because stress is really equivalent to demands, and we
Mm,
place them on ourselves because we're hard on ourselves. We want to get so much done and help the community so drastically and at least passionately, but we also have others that place demands on us. And so by taking a simple purple break, which everyone will get a purple break experience when you come to this session.
Yay.
Yay. And also there's something called impactful resilience. A lot of people know what resilience is. It's kind of bouncing back and being stronger. But impactful resilience is about stepping away from the action so that you
Mm,
can just take a moment, and then you come back and you realize that you probably would do things a little bit differently because you were just so immersed in it. That perception we were talking about earlier, it kind of clouds your vision. When you step away, just even for a minute or two, and come back, you have a new perspective on things and you see where errors may have occurred.
I totally agree with that. I have over the years trained myself to not kind of have a jerk reaction to things that I look at and go, uh-oh, and take time to just kind of gain some perspective on it. I love that. I think it's great, a great suggestion. So strong to kind of take a moment, take some breaths,
Yes.
think, think, give yourself a moment or maybe a few moments. I give myself a max of 24 hours. Sometimes I wait a whole day just to kind of look at the situation differently. Because I do think if you wait a little bit, it will look differently. It will look
Yeah.
differently than that immediacy. Anything else you'd like to tell us? I will say before you go on, I can feel the energy. I am really, really excited to see you. And I think you're perfectly placed as the kickoff. Just to really, these are the conferences, it just sets the whole trend.
Yeah.
People walk out and go, yes, like I can do this,
Yeah.
especially in today's demanding world. So is there anything else you'd like to share
Well,
before?
I give a lot of cool free stuff when I speak.
Oh,
And you have a Golden Nugget review card that you help create based on the concepts that you hear. I share about 25 different Golden Nuggets so that everybody who's there can walk away with 2, 3, 4, 5 ideas. I know some people say that one idea that's really useful and implementable is a success in a keynote, but I think I want to give you many more than that, and then you can pick and choose the ones that work for you. I also give everybody Bob. This is Bob. He's flexible and
Bob?
adaptable. And he's a stress reducer. Watch how fast he bounces back from adversity. He's being stretched to the max, like you probably are in your day, and boom,
Mm,
he just bounces right back.
he's
And
just the same as always. Good job, Bob.
everyone loves Bob, and everybody gets a couple of Bobs in the session, along with the review cards and a change chart. And the change chart talks about the 5 core characteristics that you need to continuously keep on your radar so that you can make positive change change happen. And when these 5 concepts align, positive change occurs. And so the change chart is something that's very powerful, and it helps leaders because you can talk about it and share it. And that's the best part of what I talk about. I do provide the energy, and I provide the useful ideas, and I provide you time to talk to each other to get great ideas from one another. But the best part is when you leave, it's memorable, and you can share it when you get back so that it continues to continue to help people to improve. And people keep their golden nugget review cards for decades because the concepts are evergreen. They really last and make a difference.
Well, I love that because it does help people to stay accountable to that. If they're really interested in making those changes, something to refer back to.
Absolutely.
So, well, we're not going to tell you anymore because we don't want to let any more out of the bag. But for me, for one, I feel like this is going to be amazing, and so excited to see you in person, Joy. And thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. I can't wait to see you in June.
All right.
Well, Melanie, great job. Joy Baldridge, our opening keynote speaker for the ILCMA Summer Conference. How to make the best even better. What a message. And I love the resilience and leadership and talking about the impact of local leadership. And Melanie, she said something, or you guys talked about something that I love. I actually wrote this down. When nothing is certain, anything is possible.
Yeah,
And
that's a great quote.
it is so true. When you remove, like, I always like the concept of when you remove failure as an option, it's amazing what can happen. And Joy
Yes.
touched on that. So I'm excited for Joy to open up summer conference. Great conversation there, Melanie, as always. That was a lot of fun. And again, I mentioned Melanie did all the heavy lifting this podcast. So she had a conversation there with Joy, and also Rob Boyer, the city manager of Freeport, Illinois. He will be leading one of the sessions at summer conference called Lessons Learned in Freeport, Recovering from the Challenges of Infrastructure Disinvestment. Not only in Freeport and not only in Illinois, this is a nationwide thing. Our infrastructure of our country in every local municipality is at the age where massive repairs or reconstruction needs to happen. And it's catching a lot of people off guard because nobody's been saving for this. It's not an unusual thing. And I'll tell you, in Antioch, we're experiencing this like every other community across the nation, where we have infrastructure projects, we have downtown sidewalks, we have water mains, this whole lead service line replacement deal going on right now. Every bridges are a big thing. A lot of infrastructure needs to be taken care of, and it all seems to be popping up at once. And the big question is, how do you pay for this? In the conversation with Rob, the city manager for Freeport, Rob Boyer, talks about they instituted the 1% sales tax for their community, which anytime, and I'll tell you, Melanie, you're a communications person, this goes over not usually really well whenever you institute any sort of new tax, and especially when it's not going to pay for something really exciting and sexy. We're talking water mains or other infrastructure, which isn't the most exciting thing. However, the key, and you guys talk about this, the key is communication and explaining to the public why you need to have a 1% sales tax to pay for infrastructure and what exactly they're getting. Because people might not be thrilled to hear about water mains, but they do like clean drinking water.
This is absolutely a statewide problem. So many municipalities were founded, around the time of each other. So specifically in Illinois, it's just like go time. So anyway, we'll let the interview speak for itself. But Rob was great in sharing his challenges and how he's working to overcome those. So we'll go to the video now. Hi, everyone. Today I get to be with Rob Boyer. He is the city manager for the city of Freeport, Illinois. He's going to be doing a session in the upcoming conference, so you got to make it. Very timely and interesting. The session is called Lessons Learned in Freeport, Recovering from the Challenges of Infrastructure Deinvestment. And through my work, I know that this is something that is happening all over Illinois. It is not just Freeport, where a lot of the infrastructure in cities and villages across the state are aging out and they need to be replaced and maintained. So, Rob, first, thank you for being here to talk with us today.
Thanks, Melanie. Great to be here.
Yeah. So before we get into talking a little bit about your session to get people really excited to come to conference, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background in local government?
Sure. Well, Melanie, I started in private industry. I was there for about 15 years, manufacturing, and learned a lot of things about efficiency and effectiveness, but my heart was really more in the not-for-profit sector. And I started kind of working out helping local water systems with some of the difficult problems. And it kind of grew into a full-time career. And now I'm sitting manager here in Freeport.
Look at that. Yeah, I do think that being in private industry and business is a great training ground, right? To walk into a municipality and end up managing it, you have to make sure you have all the right people in place and the right people for the different jobs that need to get done to make everything happen. What about, tell us a little bit about the city of Freeport for those who aren't aware of where it is or what it's like.
Sure. Freeport is located in Northwest Illinois, on the way to Galena, if you've ever been to Galena. It's a former industrial town. We've had a lot of business over LLC over 120 years. Been great in manufacturing heavy. We had one of the competitors to Sears and Roebuck back in the day, the Raleigh company. Big in the insurance industry with MetLife, and currently we continue to have a lot of industry with Honeywell and companies like Neighbor Harvey and Packing. So we've kind of come up through that industrial background. As everybody knows, about many years ago, we kind of had a big push to offshore a lot of industry. And I think Freeport's not unlike a lot of Illinois, where some of that industry was pretty important to the people that live in these areas. And it's some of it's offshore. And that's kind of left a little bit of a gap there. So one of the gaps that we're dealing with today is just kind of the legacy of disinvestment in infrastructure, which slowly catches up to you over time.
Yeah, absolutely. And why don't we get into that? So as you mentioned, this is something that you got to keep track of. And if it isn't managed for years and years, all of a sudden you're standing there going, we have to do it now. So why don't you talk a little bit about what you've had to manage and plan for as far as infrastructure in Freeport?
On behalf of things. So I joined the team here in Freeport in 2020. I followed the former ILCMA president, Randy Binkus, who was city manager at the time. He hired me on as public works director, and that's where a lot of my background comes from. One of the biggest challenges at that time was the city had just found out that it had forever chemical in the water. And we were mid-stride in planning for new source water. But it's not just that simple. It's not that we just put a new hole in the ground, pull water out of that, and move forward. So one of the talks that I'm going to give, or part of my talk, is going to be on more details on how we selected our site, what we want during construction in terms of our new water treatment plans, some innovations we did along the way, and then our development of backup capacity, which is always necessary in a water utility. You need enough source water and treatment capacity to cover the times when your other facilities are being maintained. So we're in the final step of that right now, and I'm proud to say that we should be done this relatively soon in 26. So that's one of the things we're going to go into some detail on. Also, many communities in Northern Illinois, especially, are dealing with the problem of lead service line remediation. From early 1900s to probably 40s, they were installing lead water service lines. So that conveys the water from the water main to the home. With obviously the lead service line, the issues we had in Flint, Michigan, those service lines need to be removed and replaced. And so we'll be talking a little bit about the process that Freeport went through to not only secure the funding to get that done, but also some of the challenges with the inventories, with the contractors, making sure things were done correctly. And we've got a vast experience of that now. We hope to have all of our, I think we had a little over 2,000 of these lead services, that we should be done with that in 2026 also.
That's excellent. I know a lot of other communities are having challenges with getting people to fill out the survey and getting information on the service lines from the residential end. So that's excellent. And actually, that's one of those things that's just non-negotiable, right? People want to turn on the water and it's there. There's just no question about it.
You're right. but there, and that's one of the things that we don't always think about is how are we educating our water users, and that's kind of part of this whole program is it's getting the education out there. Recently, I think we had April 2nd of this year, the EPA, Illinois EPA came out and had like a 10-day, you had to send out this lead service line, or I'm sorry, the perfluorinated compound, that's the forever chemical, and you had to send it out right now. And we sent it out, but we basically mothballed all the wells that we had, our source water wells that had the perfluorinated compound. So again, we've been in communication with the community, but then notices go out and you get 10 days to react. Then you get calls from everybody. What's the deal with my water? And I have to say, in Freeport's case, I'm able to pleasantly surprise them by saying, we've been working on this since 2017, and we are rounding the third base, or rounding third base on our last treatment, perfluorinated treatment and source water.
Congratulations to you. Well, that's one of the 15 things on your list that you can now knock off soon. So tell us a little bit more. So, infrastructure is in addition to, water, sewer, then you have roads, streets. Tell us a little bit more about what else you've got in that plan. It's a 5-year plan that you're knocking out, correct?
Sure. Related to transportation infrastructure, along with the water facilities. Now, just let me go back. Our main water plant was 120 years old. So that'll give you some idea of the planning that went into, future water source. We did the same thing in some ways with transportation. I think we averaged about a half mile a year, maybe a little over that, for the last 20 to 40 years. So one of the big issues in the city of Freeport was transportation infrastructure, primarily condition streets. So, city manager, form of government started here in 2017, and Lowell Crow, many of our colleagues know who that is. He was the first city manager here. And of course, he was continuing with all these crises simultaneously when he first took the seat. But over the last few years, we were able to put together a 5-year construction plan that involved our city council contributing to the priorities. And we also did get the funding going on the street program. Obviously, if you had money for roads, you'd be doing it all the way along. So unfortunately, here we had no revenue over and above our current overhead to take care of streets, except for what we got through IDOT in terms of maintenance fine. So we went ahead and put through a 1% sales tax, which partly funds our road program. And I say partly because we really need to do about 7 miles a year, and our sales tax, or 1% sales tax, and they basically able to fund us getting about 5.5. So not quite at our goal, but hey, it's a lot better than a half a mile a year.
Yeah, sure. At least you're being proactive. When did you instate that? Was that recently, or has that been in effect for a while?
It was in 2024. Yeah. So last year, spring of 24, we were past the 1% sales tax. It, as everyone can imagine, it was a challenge. It was very contentious, but we were able to get it through. There was a down the line vote on the council, the mayor breaking the tie. However, that was a very good investment because provided the funding for us to take care of maybe not our number one challenge, but a very close second challenge.
Sure. And two, if you're, when you're explaining this to your community, if you're backing it up with, these are things you want roads that don't have potholes or you're bouncing all over the place, so if you can make the case, you kind of can get your community on board as well. So these are things they want.
Well, in the community, there was a little bit of a headwind in terms of trust and government. So while you're trying to get things through, you're also working, you're trying to build the trust. At the same time, you're working against the drag effect of the lack of trust in your own. So that's another headwind. Don't things are being so there's a lot in Illinois where the local government's completely trusted. But that was not the case because, think about 40 years of disinvestment that's going to erode whatever trust people have. They pay their water bill, they pay their taxes, but we're seeing them changing. You wonder where all its money goes. So we building trusted communities, that ongoing project. It's been a challenge, and I think the one of the main things that we'll be able to do is to do what we say, and people can see it, but it takes time.
Yes, I have a saying I say to my 16-year-old: do what you say and say what you do. You're going to start building trust that way. Well, isn't Freeport fortunate to have you with your public works background? I'm sure that isn't hurting right now with all of these plans in motion. So is anything else that you've got in these sites other than water, sewer, and road infrastructure?
Well, not terribly, but on the sewer side, in like many communities, the sewer is a thing that people just expect that it works. City electric but it goes away. But these are very expensive systems that are built for decades to service the community, shown decades, but gone I guess renewed. They degrade with time, with entropy, and they need to be replaced. And so you don't want your community to end up in a place where you can't meet your discharge requirements from the EPA. So one of the things that we're also doing simultaneous is a $60 million upgrade to our headworks. One of the challenges in all our community like Freeport is many of our areas are tiled with sewer tile. It allows what's called inflow and infiltration to come into the collection system that overwhelms the treatment plant during rain seasons, or when the treatment plant gets inundated from what's bypass pumping has occurred. So you take large pumps and pump the extra water out of the river untreated, which isn't good for the environment. And that's been one of the issues here at Freeport is we had a lot of inflow and infiltration. So not only are we doing with every road project, we're doing the fiber, the epoxy lining with the sewers, but we're in the process of rebuilding our headworks, lab building, and we're putting in chemical enhanced primary treatment, which is kind of an overflow facility. So when the plant it's filled, it's at a place where they're receiving the maximum amount of inflow that can come into the plant and be treated. It will be bypassed to this chemical primary treatment, where the water then is collected, is treated minimally, or it can be run back through the plant when things dry out. So these are important things to protect our environments. And of course, when the headwork is very, very old, you're going to have problems with piping, or you'll end up with your staff being exposed to raw sewage in the working areas among brands. And
Sure.
So there's a lifetime of these things, and we have to plan for that. And unfortunately, that takes a lot of foresight. So
Yes.
in the process of redoing the plant now, we did also have to increase our wastewater bill by about $20 per household. And in the process of constructing the plant, so it's challenging I'll talk about during the session.
Yeah.
But it's important for our environment to be clean, and we can ensure continuity of our waste system so that can happen.
Sure. And, it's a strong reminder that, in addition to public safety, like public works is just such an integral part. I mean, you are managing the building blocks of a community that are expectations of service from the community, not only from a service standpoint, turn on the tap and the water's there, but also safety and sustainability as well. So it's so much to think about. I know that this is an issue that so many communities across Illinois are managing right now, or looking at managing, or uh, hopefully they're looking at it if it's time. There's so many communities that are at that age. So this session is going to be so important for the sharing of ideas and helping people to see where you had challenges and how you've been working to overcome them. So we're not going to tell anyone anymore, because otherwise you won't come because you don't know everything. So look for Rob at a session at ILCMA conference. And thank you, Rob, for sharing that information with us. I'm sure that many people watching right now know where you're at and maybe are exactly the same place.
Yes, I'm sure there's quite a few that's out there.
Yeah. All right. Well, everyone, there is still time to register for conference. Just go to ilcma.org. You can click on conferences. It's right at the top, and register, get your hotel room going so you aren't too far away. And we hope to see you there. And thanks again, Rob, for joining us today on ILCMA's Local Gov Stories.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you.
Well, Melanie, that was a great interview with Rob. Now, Rob Boyer, the city manager of Freeport, is their former public works director. What a perfect fit for a community facing infrastructure issues
I
like
know.
just about every other community in America right now. So that was a great insight to how they're tackling this big problem and paying for it. That's the $1 million, literally the multi-million dollar question in every
Yeah.
community is
Yeah.
selling the concept of raising taxes or moving funds from one thing to pay for infrastructure, which on the surface isn't real exciting, but something that needs to be done. And they're doing it in Freeport. So good
Yeah.
conversation with Rob, and good job, Rob. That was great.
Good, good job, Rob. Has a good ring to it. And if you didn't notice, we're previewing the kickoff keynote. We're previewing someone doing a session because we are working to get everyone registered for ILCMA conference. Again, that's June 3rd, 4th, 5th, which is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right?
I love how they've shifted the conference over so you can still get back to work Friday and not
Yeah.
show up on Monday. Because Monday, I don't know about you, Melanie, Monday has turned into like the dumpster fire day of the week because it's putting out fires,
Oftentimes,
emails, and like every Monday
yeah.
night I come home, I'm exhausted.
When you're not there Friday, it's just like things pile up on, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So it's a nice change. So if you haven't registered yet, there is still space, but it is dwindling. So you need to get on that. Just go to ilcma.org. Conference tab is right at the top. And Jim and I will actually be there again, um, interviewing people coming out of different sessions and something new and exciting. We always want something new and exciting. So the new and exciting is we are going to be utilizing local government professionals to do some of these interviews because we don't want to do all the interviews ourselves. We want to share the love, right?
Well, it'll be exciting to be out there again. So we did that at the winter conference. We had a chance to talk to a lot of people. And for the folks that couldn't make winter conference, it was a nice little recap of everything that went on. And if
Yeah.
you're on the fence on whether or not to go to summer conference, maybe you've never been to a conference before and I don't know if I'm going to know anyone, watch our winter conference recap and then register and we'll see you at the summer conference.
Absolutely. So time to get going. It's just a couple weeks away. So we hope to see you there.